The plane held its breath that morning. Dust lined thick along worn boards and cracked earth. Ethan Cole worked at the corral. Sleeves rolled, hammers striking wood with measured patience. Each nail sank slowly, almost reluctant to leave the board. Echo swallowed by the still air. His hat sat low, shadowing eyes that had witnessed too many nights without mercy. Scarred hands moved with a quiet certainty, the kind earned through solitude. A small shuffle broke the rhythm, soft and deliberate. Ethan paused, ear-tuned, sensing before seeing. From beyond the gate, a child appeared, a girl no older than 7 or 8, braid tangled over a shoulder, hem coated in dust. One foot lifted as if guarding a secret. Mister, she called, voice thin but unwavering. He leaned against the fence post, eyes steady. You lost? She shook her head, raising the broken shoe for him to see. The leather split at the toe, worn thread hanging loose. Can you fix this? Her gaze didn't ask permission, it simply hoped he would say yes. Ethan crouched, careful not to startle her. His fingers turned the shoe, noting each worn mark, each crease softened by the mother who had stitched it before. I can mend it, he said. It won't last forever. That's okay, she whispered, shoulders lifting slightly. Pride carried her smaller than she was. He led her to the porch, pulling needle, thread, and spare hide from a box near the door. She sat, knees drawn tight, eyes following every motion. My mama, she wore these the last day. The girl said softly, she walked me to the creek, told me to watch my steps. Then she got sick. Her voice faltered, and she pressed her fingers together. Pa buried her with the other one. Ethan's hand lingered over the leather, thumb, smoothing the torn edge. Then we'll make sure this one lasts for you, he said quietly. The girl's fingers hovered near his hand, hesitant. Ethan threaded the needle and began stitching, slow and precise, binding torn leather back into shape. She watched, silent, her small chest rising and falling like the planes in wind. When the seam held firm, he handed the shoe back. She slipped it on carefully, testing her step, lips curling briefly into a small, proud smile. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan nodded, eyes drifting toward the distant hills. Go home before it gets too hot. She hesitated, braid brushing her arm. Mister, if Pa comes, don't give him my shoe. He met her gaze. No words were needed. The land stretched wide, sun climbing, dust swirling in soft eddies. She ran toward the far shacks, leaving him holding the weight of a promise heavier than leather. The wind shifted, carrying with it the faint echo of something approaching, and Ethan knew this small act of care would ripple farther than either of them imagined. By midday, the sun pressed harsh against the plains, baking dust into every crevice, shimmering off boards like faint heat waves. Ethan leaned against the cabin rail, tin cup in hand, eyes tracing the distant creek where the girl's father had last been seen staggering along the trail. The horse shifted nearby, ears flicking toward every whisper of wind, muscles taut beneath sleek, dampened hair. A shout broke the quiet, not far, not faint, and unmistakably human. The man's voice slurred, harsh, carrying both anger and fear cut across the ranch like a knife. Ethan's jaw tightened. He didn't move at first, letting the words settle. When the man appeared over the rise, shoulders hunched, boots scuffing loose earth, bottle swinging from one hand, his gaze fixed sharp on Ethan. You got something that ain't yours, the man shouted, voice rough as gravel. Ethan set the cup down carefully. She brought it broken, he said. I fixed it for her. The man's eyes flicked to the cabin, then back, reddening with anger. Ain't yours to keep, he growled. Hand it over. Ethan measured the moment. Every instinct told him to retreat, to avoid confrontation, to leave the man to his rage. But the child's request lingered in his mind. Don't give him my shoe. The mother's last memory was stitched into that leather. Fragile yet sacred. I can't do that, Ethan said finally, voice steady, low. She asked me not to. The man laughed, bitter and short, slapping the fence with a fist that rattled. Posts, she don't know what she's talking about. You think I care for her wishes? Ethan stood straighter, hands resting lightly on the rail. I care for what's right, he said. That shoe is hers, not yours. Not mine. Hers. A tense pause followed. Sunlight glinted off the man's bottle. He raised it as if to strike. Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't reach for a gun, either. He simply stood, steady, the weight of choice pressing down. The man spat, red staining dust, jaw twitching. You'll regret this, he snarled. I might, Ethan admitted. But some things aren't worth regret if they mean protecting what's left of her world. The man cursed again. shaking the fence as if the posts themselves could bend. Ethan's resolve. Then, as if realizing he could not break the quiet determination before him, he spat once more and stumbled back toward the path. Muttering under breath, Ethan exhaled, muscles relaxing only slightly. The horse snorted, uneasy but calm, sensing the tension had lifted for now. Inside the cabin, the shoe lay on the table, stitched seam gleaming faintly in the heat of the afternoon. Ethan glanced toward the hills. The plains would always be wild, unforgiving, dangerous. But in this small act, choosing the child's memory over fear or convenience, he had drawn a line. One man against another could bend the world. One man protecting a child could change its meaning. At least for a moment. He picked up the shoe and set it carefully back on the table. Dust rose faintly from the boards, catching light. Somewhere beyond the creek, wind shifted, carrying the scent of distant earth and growing storm. Ethan's hands lingered over the wood, knowing this decision had consequences he couldn't yet see. Yet beneath the weight of choice, he felt a rare certainty that protecting the small, fragile, and fleeting was worth more than comfort or safety. The sun dropped slowly toward the horizon, shadows stretching long and thin across the ranch. And in that quiet, Ethan understood something that would carry far beyond this single day. Courage was not only facing bullets, but standing for what one knew to be right, even when it might bring more danger than peace. The plains grew restless as late afternoon settled, wind carrying the first hints of storm dust across the ranch. Ethan's shadow stretched long and thin, tracing the boards of the porch like a warning. The girl sat on the steps, knees tucked, braid damp with sweat from working in the sun, eyes fixed on the stitched shoe resting beside her. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She had learned that moments like this demanded attention, not words. Then movement appeared beyond the fence line. 3 men, boots sinking into softened earth, hats pulled low, rifles slung across their shoulders, satchel of rope swinging. At one man's side, their approach was silent, deliberate, each step measured. The horse's ears flattened, nostrils flaring, muscles coiled. Ethan's hand brushed the rail. Fingers lingered near the rifle tucked against the porch post, but he did not reach for it yet. His gaze swept the men, reading posture, intent, calculating. Looks like someone's been busy, the tallest said, voice dry, edged with mockery. Mending toys now, old man. Ethan's jaw tightened. I fix what's broken, that's all. The second man laughed, a short, bitter sound, scanning the cabin and porch. You protect little girls with broken shoes, huh? You think that'll save you when we decide it's time? The girl's fingers clutched the hem of her dress, braid swinging slightly as fear and courage tangled. Ethan noticed the small rise and fall of her chest, the way her hands tightened. She had seen danger before, but this was different. The weight of intent pressed heavy, a storm pressing closer than the weather itself. Ethan stepped forward, body square, gaze firm. She asked me to keep it. That's enough. The tallest man's eyes flicked to the shoe on the table, sunlight catching its stitched seam. Hand it over, he said, voice low, threatening. I won't, Ethan replied, calm but unyielding. The second man shifted, rope coiling in his hands, knuckles white. Maybe she don't matter as much as your pride, he said. We'll see how far that gets you. The horse pawed the ground, snorted, ears swiveling toward the threat. Dust swirled around the men's boots, the sky darkening with approaching clouds. A low rumble of thunder rolled across the distant hills. Ethan's hand lingered near the rifle, one small movement, careful, deliberate, and the fight would begin. He felt the weight of the girl's trust, the fragility of the mother's memory stitched into that shoe, and the unspoken promise he had made, that he would stand, no matter the danger. The tallest man lunged suddenly, the rope swinging, aiming to snatch the shoe through the door. Ethan stepped forward, voice steady, eyes locked on the movement. Back! The man froze for a fraction, surprised by the force behind the word. Thunder cracked above, startling the horse, and the wind whipped dust into the men's faces. A high, clear voice rang out, slicing through the tension. Mister. The girl appeared at the edge of the corral, small but unflinching, braid whipping in the wind. Her eyes were fierce, luminous with courage. Ethan felt the moment shift. The threat, once simple and certain, now wavered. The men hesitated, unsure if they would face a child who refused to cower alongside the man protecting her. For a heartbeat, the plains were suspended, wind and dust and thunder blending into silence. The girl's gaze met Ethan's, and he nodded, imperceptibly an acknowledgement of shared courage, of a bond forged in danger and quiet determination. Outside, the storm gathered, shadows stretching over the hills, The air carried the taste of rain and tension, of dust and fear, and Ethan knew the night would not come easy. Yet in that charged pause, something unspoken passed between them. Protection, trust, and the courage to stand, even against odds that seemed certain to crush them. The men shifted, muttered under breath, unsure now whether to push forward or retreat. Ethan's hand rested near the rifle, ready if need be, but his eyes never left the girl. One misstep, one wrong choice, and danger would ignite, but together, they had already carved the first line of defense. The storm above whispered closer, wind tearing at the grass, lightning flashing across distant ridges, and in that charged, fragile moment, the world held its breath, waiting for the next move. Night fell slowly over the plains, shadows stretching across the cabin and corral, soft but heavy with promise of more storms beyond. Ethan and the girl sat side by side on the porch, boots dangling over the edge, the stitched shoe between them like a small, sacred talisman. The wind rustled dry grass beyond the fence, carrying whispers of distant hills, of animals stirring, of secrets the land kept close. The girl leaned forward, braid brushing the railing, fingers tracing the seam of the shoe once more. Do you think Mama can see me now? She asked quietly, voice almost swallowed by the night. Ethan's hand rested near hers, careful not to startle. She sees you, he said. Every step you take, every choice you make, she's with you. In that, the girl's shoulders relaxed slightly. She exhaled, small, deliberate, letting the tension of the day slip from her muscles. I thought I was alone, she whispered, eyes glimmering with the raw weight of memory. You weren't, Ethan replied softly. His gaze drifted over the plains, where shadows clung to the hollows and the storm clouds lingered beyond the hills. But sometimes, it feels that way. That's why we hold on to what matters, even small things, even shoes. A faint laugh slipped from her lips, surprising in its lightness. She shifted, brushing dust from her dress, and for a moment, the fear, the grief, and the long days of wandering seemed suspended, held at bay by the simple act of sharing quiet company. Ethan reached over, picking up the shoe, turning it gently in his hands. This, he said, voice low, it's more than leather, it's memory, protection, a promise, and it's yours to carry, however you choose. Her small hands hovered over it, trembling, before she took it, careful, almost reverent. I'll take care of it, she whispered. You already have, Ethan said, just by being brave. That counts more than any stitch I've made. The horse shifted nearby, nudging the corral, nostrils flaring, ears twitching. Ethan felt it too, the quiet pulse of the land, the rhythm of life that demanded attention, patience, and care. The plains were vast, uncaring, dangerous, but here, in this cabin, on this porch, human connection had carved a foothold against the world's indifference. The girl leaned into him slightly, braid brushing against his arm, seeking steadiness, warmth, and safety. Ethan didn't move. He let her rest, hand resting lightly near hers. No words were necessary. The trust between them, formed in small acts, in protection and presence, filled the quiet night with something heavier than fear, brighter than hope, shared understanding. Thunder rumbled faintly, distant, a reminder of the dangers still waiting beyond the hills. But the girl didn't flinch. Ethan didn't flinch. They were anchored to each other by more than circumstance, by courage, by loyalty, by the small victories of everyday care. The stitched shoe rested between them, quiet and whole. It carried memory, grief, love, and trust, yet also the proof of resilience. Together, they had survived confrontation, had made choices that mattered, and had forged a bond stronger than the fear of what might come. Stars began to prick the sky, sharp against the dark velvet night. The wind carried scent of wet dust, of distant hollows, of life moving unseen. And in the stillness, Ethan felt a rare piece of knowledge that human kindness, quiet courage, and care for fragile things could endure even in the harshest land. The girl pressed the shoe to her chest, eyes closing briefly. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan's lips tightened, nodding slightly. It's nothing, he said. You just need someone to see you through. That's all any of us need sometimes. The night deepened around them, full of rustling, grass and distant calls. But inside that small cabin and under the wide, limitless sky, fear had been replaced by trust, grief by connection, and loneliness by companionship. For now, that was enough. Dawn broke soft and golden over the plains, dusting boards, horsehair, and earth with light that trembled across every ridge. Ethan stood on the porch, hat tilted low, eyes tracing the hills where the shadows of the night still lingered. The horse shifted beside him, quiet, patient, sensing the calm after tension, the fragile peace that had been carved through choice and courage. The girl stepped onto the porch, small and deliberate, braid brushing her shoulder, dress dusted from the night's rest. In her hands, she held the stitched shoe, worn but whole, the leather carrying every memory of her mother, every lesson of courage, every unspoken promise that had bound her to Ethan. Will it last? She asked softly. Ethan knelt slowly, careful not to startle her. He took the shoe, turning it gently, thumb smoothing the stitched seam. It will last as long as you remember what it means, he said. And you'll remember, won't you? She nodded, small but certain, eyes shining. I will. Together, they moved toward the corral, feeding the horse, checking fence posts, speaking in silence more than in words. Each gesture was deliberate, each action a testament to survival, trust, and connection. The plain stretched endlessly around them, vast and wild, indifferent to the small victories of a man and a child. And yet, for the first time, the weight of the land felt less cruel, softened by human kindness. Ethan glanced at the horizon, where storm clouds lingered faint, a reminder that danger never truly sleeps. But the girl's hand brushed against his arm, steadying, grounding, and he understood that courage, once shared, grows stronger. He could face whatever came, not for pride, not for gain, but because some things trust, memory, love were worth more than fear. The girl set the shoe down carefully beside the cabin door, kneeling to smooth dust from its surface. Mama would be proud, she whispered. Ethan's lips pressed into a thin line, eyes tracing the horizon. She already is, he said. Every step you take, every choice you make, she sees. A faint breeze lifted dust and grass, carrying the scent of rain from distant hills. Somewhere far off, a coyote called, lonely, and the wind caught the sound, swirling it over the plain. Ethan felt the vastness of the land, the certainty of danger, but also the smallness of fear when courage and care were shared. The girl stepped closer, braid brushing his arm, eyes wide with trust. Ethan knelt slightly, resting a hand on hers. No words were needed. In that simple, quiet gesture, the stitched shoe between them became more than memory. It became symbol of survival, protection, and hope. The sun rose higher, golden and steady, painting the plains with light that promised more than just endurance. It promised life, human connection, and the quiet triumph of doing right. Ethan stood, shoulders squared, gaze sweeping the hills. The girl followed, small but unwavering. Together, they faced the expanse, carrying courage, trust, and memory like armor against whatever the world would throw. The plains stretched vast and endless, but here, in this cabin and corral, with one child and one man bound by choice and care, the world seemed, if only for a heartbeat, fair enough. And in that heartbeat, Ethan knew the truth. Human kindness, courage, and protection of fragile things could endure, even in the unforgiving Old West. The stitched shoe rested between them, quiet, whole, and more than leather. It held memory, it held trust, and it held the promise that no matter what came next, some things, love, courage, human connection, would always survive. And as the wind lifted over the plains, carrying dust and possibility alike, the man and the girl stepped forward together, ready to meet the day, ready to face the world, ready to carry what mattered.